Hello, and welcome to the world of identifying architectural issues before they happen. I'm Brian Stokes, the product manager for AWS Well-Architected tool, and I'm excited to share how you can take advantage of the well-architected framework combined with the tools and processes you use to run your business, helping you proactively monitor your workloads for risks that could cause issues if not effectively resolved before they hit production. Prior to joining AWS Well-Architected, I spent my time building SaaS products and figuring out how to integrate them into other tools in customers' business app ecosystem. So this topic hits near and dear to my heart for a number of reasons. As a SaaS product manager, I needed to understand both risks and customer needs, then make trade-offs on improving our platform to ensure security and reliability versus building new features. This can only happen effectively if we can evaluate where the risks may lie and then make informed decisions. On the other side, my mind is always thinking about how to bring together multiple applications, having them work together to deliver on my business outcomes. As my old CEO used to say, how can we make 1 + 1 = 3? So in our conversation today, we'll dive into what AWS Well-Architected is, then touch on how our customers are going to use it today, or how they are using it today, then dive into some of the use cases to assist in identifying risks to your workloads. Now, before we jump into the ways we can do this, let's get grounded on what is AWS Well-Architected and the tool that can help you evaluate and understand the best practices as they're applied in your workloads. Notice I said workloads, because most companies have more than one workload, and larger enterprises could have hundreds or thousands of workloads. The AWS Well-Architected framework provides a consistent approach for customers and partners to evaluate trade-offs and implement designs that can scale over time. It consists of key concepts, design principles, and architectural best practices used to design and run workloads in the cloud. The framework is meant to help cloud architects build secure, high-performing, resilient, and efficient infrastructures for their applications based on the 5 pillars that you see on the screen. So Brian, you ask, why should I care about these best practices? Well, applying the well-architected framework will help you build and deploy faster. By designing with the best practices in mind, you can cut down firefighting, capacity management, and by using automation, you can experiment and release more often. You can use it to lower or mitigate risks to your architecture. Understand where you have risks in your architecture and address them before they impact your business and distract your team. Make informed decisions. Ensure you've made active architectural decisions that highlight how they might impact your business outcomes. In the end, you're taking advantage of the best practices that our AWS solutions architects have learned through thousands of hours of reviewing our customers' architecture and helping them improve. So coupled with the framework is the AWS Well-Architected tool, which provides a single place and consistent process to perform the review on your workload. The framework is guidance, and the tool is the process that helps you enable it. To proactively identify risks, customers should evaluate the workloads against the framework early and often, before it goes into production, and then again over the lifetime of the application. We all know that architecture, it's not static. And so you need to continue to review that architecture to ensure it continues to meet those best practices. While I continue to hear from our customers about the value of well-architected, this is always followed by an ask on how they can scale across their workloads and how they can take advantage earlier in the development cycle. Typically, the highlights that they bring forward that cause friction are the well-architected tool is siloed. the value is locked inside the tool, not able to be brought into the systems and processes they use on a daily basis. While they used it on a few critical workloads, it was tough to scale across their full set of workloads to really evaluate their architectural health across the organization. Without integration into their tools and processes, it was difficult to proactively review workloads before going into production, or then incrementally evaluating them over time to ensure there has not been any best practice drift since the last review. What I found interesting when talking to customers like our trailblazer Cox Automotive was that they highlighted the value in the framework, both in helping upfront design and then when the workload is going into production. This led them to make well-architected part of their process from the beginning to the end. Customers, especially enterprises, have highlighted a number of different how use cases that would help them scale and integrate into the processes in a meaningful way. So the first is automatically discovering if their workloads were meeting best practices. Well-architected reviews take time, and we encourage the conversation on the best ways to address the risks that are found. If we automate some of the discovery, it can save time and resources that could then be spent on identifying the path forward instead of doing all the legwork to figure out whether you are hitting those best practices or not. Across hundreds of workloads, that time can really add up. Also, once you've identified the way your organization wants to enable a best practice in your systems, you can automatically check for all subsequent workloads that you're reviewing. You've already established how to meet that best practice. So then you can create a check to make sure that you're meeting it across every workload that you continue to bring through your development pipeline. This also helps you to test those workloads over and over again as you make changes to them. Again, architecture is not static. It also lets you, so the next is about pulling the identified risks or areas of improvement into the IT management solutions they use or you use to parse out the work. Once you've identified the risk or how you want to improve your architecture, that task needs to get to the right group to do the job. It doesn't help if it's just sitting in a system off to the side. By bringing it into the tools that you use to manage your activities is key, so that the work can be prioritized alongside the other features and other things those teams have to do. It's about identifying what are your business objectives and what are all the things you need to do to improve your workload, your application. So once you have all that data, it's about aggregating the risk status of those workloads from across your organization, either into an executive level view of architectural health or pulling the risks into your IT risk management systems. Architectural risk is only one type that organizations face. So finding the need, those findings need to be brought into processes your organization uses. That's how you're going to get the best view of all the risks to your systems and then be able to identify what you are going to do to improve them. Now, one that I've heard come up more and more recently is how do you use a subset of the best practices within Well-Architected that are deemed critical to your business and use them as a stage gate for release into production, so that there's certain best practices that are critical that you wouldn't want to let a system go into production until those were addressed. Now, the only way to do this at scale is to be able to access the data from within Well-Architected and be able to pull that and pull it into the systems that you're using as your readiness checks before you deploy into production. So now all of these use cases focused on the flow of information across multiple systems. Kind of hard to do that without APIs for tools, now isn't it? So let's talk a little bit about what we did. So we heard the need loud and clear from our customers, both who were actively using the well-architected tool and those who considered using it, but it didn't quite meet their needs at the time. So this led us to releasing a comprehensive set of APIs for the well-architected tool at reInvent last year. So now we're making the tool and the information within consumable in multiple ways, through the console, as it was before, and now through the APIs as well. This allows users to perform any action that can be performed in the console through our APIs. And we'll continue to ensure parity between the console and the APIs as we add the next set of features our customers have asked for. And I'm going to talk about a few of those near the end. So by adding these APIs, it opened the doors for customers and partners to create an interconnect between the best practices and insights AWS offers with the systems and processes they use to monitor their cloud environment, to manage their IT risks, and the tools they use to track and prioritize actions their teams take on. This is what's really enabling customers to bring those architectural best practices in at scale, and then draw on the outputs and use them within all the systems that they normally would use on a daily basis. So while we're still in the early days of integration with an organization's business processes, there's already tools and guidance available, and we're continuing to grow that all the time. So we have a number of well-architected labs which help you learn how to use our APIs and demonstrating some common customer use cases, such as deploying a well-architected review, pre-populating answers that are common across your organization using a CloudFormation template. This can help you automate at scale and reduce the friction and time to perform a review, and should help drive broader adoption and use within an organization. If you can provide all the teams that are already performing reviews, and you can answer some of those questions for them, because the answer will be the same because of the way you've deployed or changed things in security, your business processes or your operational processes, it's just going to save time. This can also help ensure a well-architected review can be automatically created each time a new account is spun up or a new workload is created. By creating that review up front, you can see what parts have been completed, what parts of the review have been completed, what risks are there as the team moves through the different stages of the development lifecycle. That way you're starting to look at the best practices early in the process, and you're checking them along the way so that you're not doing a final check right before production and having to go through all of these best practices to see what you've put in place and what hasn't. And that just causes rework. So automation gives you that, automating the creation of those reviews gives you that ability to kind of apply it systematically early. So now there are other examples of solving common use cases out there as well, such as blogs and example code. The first of which takes you through building out a cross-account risk dashboard using well-architected APIs, Athena, and QuickSight to build a customized view that makes sense for your organization. So we know customized reporting, where you can provide a central view of your workload risks that align with your business processes, it's core to bringing well-architected insights into the mainstream way you monitor. The same concepts can be used to bring well-architected data directly into the central reporting or risk management systems that you use. Our example just helps you get started. So this also opened the door for partners to automatically detect, both upfront and ongoing, the risks a workload might have and provide a current state of their well-architected health, to pull data from well-architected to provide insights, and pull data from well-architected into their IT management systems. As part of our launch, we worked with a number of our well-architected partners in the cloud monitoring space and beyond to pre-integrate with our tool, to use the checks they already perform, and to use them to discover if well-architected best practices are being met. We're continuing to work with our partners to both enhance the integrations in place and to expand the partners that we're working with. As I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, I believe the best way to integrate a new process into existing processes is to bring it into the solutions you're already using. This reduces change management, which is typically the hardest part of introducing something new into the way you work. No matter how beneficial it is in the long run, change is hard. So now I want to talk a little bit about what's on the horizon and how we're going to help in the future. As I kind of outlined earlier, we've launched the APIs and we are still in the beginning, and there's so much more we can do to help bring these processes into your system, our best practices into your processes. So what typically goes hand in hand with integration is customization. Customers have provided me with a ton of amazing and actionable feedback on what they need to fully embrace well-architected. I have a number of conversations start with, we want to roll well-architected out widely. We see the value, but we have best practices of our own we want to review alongside well-architected. How do we customize this full view of best practices and incorporate it all and make it tailored to the way we do business? We need industry best practices to make this more actionable for our business. Again, how do you take the best practices within an industry and apply them right alongside with with the best practices we provide in well-architected? And then there's always the question of some best practices do not apply to my workloads. And that happens. You may have an internal workload that doesn't need some of the reliability or just about any of those best practices that might be for putting something out externally. We want to let you really make well-architected work for the different types of workloads that you have. And we've already talked about how well-architected wasn't set for scaling across my full organization. And we kind of talked about some of the automation and options already there today to help scale. And there's more to come. So we recognize all of these needs. And we're going down the path of helping our customers scale and to ensure that well-architecting can be used across their organization to really get that full view of architectural health and really help them improve. So as Rudy Valdez, our VP, mentioned at his reInvent talk, going forward, we'll be focused on delivering features which help our customers scale well-architected across their organization and customizing the review process to meet their business objectives and their maturity level. So we'll continue to create AWS-provided content focused on key use cases, such as serverless and financial services, and industries like financial services. In Mandus Momberg's talk at the summit, he goes into depth on the new lenses and the content types we're planning to provide to our customers. In addition, we'll be further extending our content capabilities to allow customers to inject their own custom best practices right into the mix. so that they can assess both well-architected best practices as well as any from their own organization at the same time within a single unified tool. If we go back to that integration, the more that you can funnel these best practice reviews into a single tool, the easier it is to integrate it across your processes. I've heard best practices being captured and tested from an Excel sheet all the way through to building a custom application to collect it. Centralizing all those best practices just makes it easier for you to roll it and monitor at scale. So I'm very interested to hear about your use cases and would welcome the opportunity to dive into it more with each of you. I encourage you to talk to your AWS account team and set up time with my team to do a deep dive. My goal is to make sure what we're bringing into the tool and the abilities and features we're bringing is what you as our customers need. So, as we talked about earlier, we launched with a number of great cloud management partners, and we'll continue to work with them and onboard new partners who can help discover and perhaps even remediate certain risks automatically to your architecture. On top of that, we're investigating ways to make it easier for you, the customer, to create your own automations against both well-architected and the custom best practices you use to make the process tailored to your needs. Our goal is to let you help drive how you want to test for those best practices, whether they're yours or whether they're ours, and make it and reduce that friction for really monitoring these over time. So, to sum up, best practices or architectural best practices are meant to be more than best intentions. And to do that, you have to institute some systematic processes to help ensure you're able to monitor them equally across your workloads. Our goal is to help you improve your workload's efficiency, security, cost optimization, reliability, and operational efficiency to reduce, or better yet, avoid issues before it happens. As a product manager, I understand that today it's typically unplanned work across your resources if you have to address risks if you're doing reviews later in the game. So the best way to avoid this is to systematically introduce and review these best practices earlier in the workload's lifecycle. As the AWS well-architected tool product manager, my goal is to help you, my customer, to understand the best practices which come from thousands of hours of SA experience and how they can help you and help your business avoid impactful issues. To do that, we need to become part of your processes, not something that sits outside of it. Our first step was creating the APIs. The second was engaging with the applications that you use on a daily basis. This is something we started at reInvent, and we're not going to stop. We need to help you scale well-architected across your organization. So, finally, here are a few links to architectural resources that can help. There's a number of others, like our well-architected labs, which perhaps I should have added on there for you. But we have plenty of architectural resources to help you understand the well-architected best practices, and then how to use the tool to really review your workload and workloads going forward. So I want to thank you for taking the time and listening and having this conversation. And I look forward to talking to you if you're interested about how to bring well-architected into your systems, into your organization, and how it can really help improve your workloads. So please take a moment to complete the survey. I look forward to really hearing how informative this session was and how I can improve delivering that information to you in the future. Thanks again.